So this is the regular Sunday episode. I know we've been not having our regular episodes, but nonetheless, Happy New Year! And once again, I do not think you can hear me. Yes, I hope you guys are doing well. So this is another episode for the Bangalore Nonfiction Book Club podcast. I hope you guys are doing well again. As I told you, we haven't caught up. We haven't been doing our episodes regularly. That's because we try to pull in the episodes whenever we can. We're supposed to do it last week, but Mohit was busy, so whenever we can pull in another episode, we're going to do it. We're going to talk about non-fiction stuff that we are reading, what he's reading, and if you have any book recommendations, do drop by, give us your book recommendations below. So I'm going to get Mohit over, and I hope you guys are having a good Sunday. Yo,
And Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, bro. This is
Yeah,
how we do
dude.
it through the book club. One second.
Right. It's been 10
So,
days or so since the last podcast, huh? And here we are
yeah,
talking about the.
yeah, bro. Sorry, I had to like my full podcasting rig had gone fry. So I'm
Yeah,
just this week I'm having a couple of more episodes. So I'm
right.
just setting it up.
Yeah, I hear
Yes.
you have like data science now, cryptocurrency,
Not
and
data science yet, bro. So probably under I'll do that under tech podcast, but
right,
that hasn't been initiated yet. But we have one on blockchain, bro. I've been reading up on that shit, so
right,
it's fun.
right.
And I realize we've been in the scene for a while, for like 3-4 years, but I was only passively involved as usual, as you know, like how I get involved. Like I don't like, get actively involved in that stuff, but I was open to understanding what it was, and the more I understood what this was about, then I was like, okay. Then RBI had an issue with cryptocurrencies and stuff, and it was like on and off. It was a big issue.
Right.
Plus, the other thing is Facebook and these guys, they don't allow you to advertise cryptocurrency also.
Yeah,
So it's like a lot of there is not a lot of information available. So I probably, as usual, make it available through podcasting, get people over and like get help them understand what is blockchain and how does it work, how
yeah,
does it apparently solve the issue of trust and all that stuff,
right,
all the
right.
good shit. So I've been reading a bit about that, bro. So that's fun. What are you up to?
Yeah, I've been reading some crazy books, man, from the last couple
Well
of
done.
days. And regarding the Bitcoin and cryptocurrency, there's a lot of crazy stuff happening, huh? Like there's this book called Digital Gold. Have you heard of
Yeah,
that?
yeah, I read that. It's a primer, bro. That book is a primer. I thought it was like fully
Uh-huh.
we'd go deep into it, but it's like a primer, bro.
Yeah, yeah. And
How is it? It gives like a proper introduction to Bitcoin and all. Digital gold, yeah. Somebody did
I
recommend.
haven't read it yet, but it's on my list. Like all things. Like it's
Like
one of
all
the books I
things,
remember. Yeah.
it helps at least if it's on the list.
Right, right. No doubt, no doubt. And the new book that
So
I saw in your status is New Power, huh? By
yeah,
Jeremy
it's
I
interesting, bro.
yeah, and I think it's very fascinating because the old power ways are like going to go away. I mean, if they are not going already, and the new power
Yeah,
is sounds really good about how all the people, the do-it-yourself maker
exactly.
mode
So
versus the
it all makes
experts.
sense.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean, that's how the things are gonna go now, I guess. Like everyone, the experts are gonna probably lose their, hegemony or whatever, and
yeah,
the
yeah.
people who do it themselves, they are the ones who are gonna like anybody who's on the social media right now.
Exactly. So that comes full circle, bro. Like my point being is, we don't really have to be experts. We have to be facilitators, basically, of the information online.
Right.
Right.
And
So
the
that's how
funny
I
thing
look at
is,
podcasting.
it doesn't take a lot to become an expert. Tim Ferriss, right, in 4 Hour Work Week,
Yeah.
there's a whole chapter about how you can like be an
But
expert
yeah,
very
but
fast.
but
Yeah.
come on, bro. That's now we're talking about like my understanding of an expert is like minimum 30 years.
Right,
Post 30 years, he's an like Robert Greene mastery stuff, right?
right,
You
right.
got to be an apprentice for straight up 10 years
Yeah.
or
Oh yeah,
15 years,
the
right? That's
10,000
like,
hours rule.
yeah. Or yeah, like then the right that school of thought, like that's who I would say is an expert in terms like that, and like total complete mastery is like that's how I look at it. So that's my school of thought is from there. Like if you are an expert, you literally must be post 45 years old. Like I wouldn't like
Bro,
accept.
I'm somebody who believes that the singularity is gonna come in the next 30 years, all right? Like I really
Uh,
honestly do feel that the next 30 years technological singularity is gonna come forth. And when you say that, okay, the next 30 years you're gonna be expert, like I don't even see the point of being an expert when there are like super intelligent machines who can learn
for
and
your own, but for your own, like
okay,
for your own intellect. Like I want to be probably an expert in like playing musical instruments. Like just
fair
let's
enough,
just put it that way. Like
yeah.
for an example, right? It's for your own personal book, sort
No
of
doubt, no
personal
doubt.
internal
Yeah,
book, right? But yeah, that goes about like, are you going to monetize the fact that you're going to be an expert? That's a whole new conversation, right?
true,
So
true.
that's how I look at it too, right? Like sort of again to the back to our thing of are you uh, what were you talking about? Are you into it missionary or mercenary, right? What are you
Right.
into? How are you entering like the field? What about Life 3.0? Did you read that?
No, dude, it's been in my
So
list for
that's a
so
crazy
long.
book, bro. That's a
Very
crazy book.
fun.
It starts off by a story. I didn't finish it,
Yeah,
but
yeah, that's
at the
the list.
beginning, it goes off by saying like how if there's a singularity, if there's a super intelligence,
Yeah,
that basically general intelligence that takes over the entire world,
yeah,
that's run by a group basically who
yeah,
I mean it basically decentralizes and puts power into their hands under the AI. So I
yeah,
mean, the AI is like the new electricity, the new steam engine, the new
yeah.
mass media, they're going to take over mass
There's no
media
metaphor
by
that has been invented yet for whatever that
yeah.
means.
So bro, it comes full circle when we start off the podcast also by talking about the blockchain also, right?
Right,
So
right.
blockchain also solves trust issues. You don't need third party banks. You don't need like stuff like that to
Yeah.
facilitate validate a transaction. That's where there is a book called Platform Revolution, right? So I've been very much interested in platforms basically, bro. I didn't understand what a platform was
Right.
until I had like I wanted to create some kind of an online marketplace for
Mm-hmm.
like for some other idea that I had. So but basically I didn't understand how do you facilitate the two sides basically, the
Right.
sellers, the buyers, right? How do you like set up this system? Then I realized there is this whole new thing called platform. You don't build a pipeline business as such,
Mm-hmm.
right? You're the
Mm-hmm.
only contractor who does woodworking in town.
Right.
That's a pipeline. You're going to be a gatekeeper in that. But a platform is it enables all the people who want to buy, who want to have get woodworking done
Right.
with the
Right.
people who are facilitate woodworking, right?
Exactly.
That's a
Right.
platform. And
It
then
sounds
I
like
realized fucking everything is platform. Uber is a platform.
yeah.
Airbnb is a platform. These are all platform businesses. Facebook is a platform.
Right.
That
Right.
book is crazy, bro. Like I want you to like
Dude,
read that. It's crazy.
it
So then
sounds
you go
similar
about
to like exponential organization, isn't it? Basically,
yeah,
exponential
and
organization.
you add forms of exo also, but platform kind of thinking is different. Like you wouldn't do anything just because you want to start a business. You want to start a platform essentially.
Right. Right.
You
Right.
wouldn't want to start a business. You want to start like a platform. The platform enables people to come on board and like put things into like a huge marketplace. But coming to my point, like again, we're going to decentralize it. So
Right.
again, we're going to have cryptocurrencies. We're going to have like stuff like this, blockchains who's going to solve the trust issue basically.
Right.
And I don't know,
So the
bro.
book
I
you
was
just mentioned was
very
Platform Revolution, right?
Platform Revolution, and there's another book on platform. I didn't put it up, I guess. It's interesting. And it's the same concept. Facebook is a platform,
Right.
Airbnb is a platform,
Right.
and it's a tough thing. You have to woo basically the users. The
Yeah.
users don't have anything to come on board. The
Yeah.
users will come on board unless there are sellers, and sellers won't come on board unless there are users.
Right.
Right. And advertisers won't come on board unless there are sellers and buyers and sellers.
Yeah. It's like
So it's like a tough situation. Yeah, it's
you
an
need
ecosystem.
yeah, you
I
need the
didn't
cart,
have an idea.
gotta bring the
Yeah,
horse.
I didn't have an idea as to like how do you tackle this? Like what is
Mm-hmm.
like how do you set this up? What this entire thing is called? Then I realized you're essentially trying to build a platform versus a pipeline. Basically, a
Right.
pipeline is just it's like a small place which just cuts off information and like leverage. Basically, this is
Right.
open and it's like you can say decentralized. The same way, probably blockchain is going to help like diamonds, right? You'll be able to tomorrow know where your diamond is sourced from. Is it a blood diamond? Through blockchain technology, where everything is tracked, everything is like, you can know the source and who's the seller, and everything is on a blockchain, and you can know the previous owners and like stuff like that. Like everything can be pegged on. Like, and coming to that, I actually almost lost my point. Why I was telling you, there's something called as Ethereum.
Yeah, I've heard of it.
Right.
That's also
Ethereum is a
right?
yeah. So, bro, Ethereum is a cryptocurrency, but my understanding is, as I told you, right, I didn't understand what was this whole platform thing. When I read this platform revolution, Ethereum is a platform. It allows you to create apps on the platform, right? You go to Play Store,
Right.
Play Store Google gets a bit of the cut, right? Apple Play Store gets a good, but you create platforms on this kind of, what do you call, on a ecosystem, basically.
Okay.
The money goes back. The money goes back, basically, to the creator.
Oh, right.
Right. So Ethereum can possibly have like a crazy fundamental shift in how everything is created, bro, because it's the power of a platform. Right. Over the years, all platforms are like unicorns. They are all like they're all like they're hitting like billions of like money, and like all the investors are like they're going behind platforms. If you essentially look at it that way, Flipkart is a platform. They're doing an IPO. Right. Baiju is not a platform, but like the edutainment, the edu stuff, that's like a different niche. But like almost everything is a platform. Then, but what about platforms? But what if it's decentralized? That is like the new spin. Then like the next age of like internet. And that is what this guy, they wrote a white paper. He's 19 years old. He was when he wrote it, bro. Vitalik is a guy. He was a creator of Ethereum. I think he's come on Joe Rogan. I think he's come on this guy also. Lex Friedman.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right. So it's like for me, I wouldn't say yes until I come full circle.
Ethereum can democratize blockchain.
Yeah, it does. It would. Like, let's say tomorrow you want to create an app, and if you create it on Ethereum, right, you will have like the power of like the crowd, basically, right? And it's decentralized. It's a whole new thing. So until now, no, I was just, my understanding of blockchain and all of that was only purely through people telling me in the field what it was, and me just like, okay, this coin is there, there's that coin. Okay, bro, this is happening in the field. Ripple got sued. Basically, all this trivia stuff. But I didn't realize, I actually didn't pick up a fucking book and read what the fuck this shit is.
Yeah.
Given that it was a new thing, they were not probably good books also.
Right.
But I just picked up one or two books, and then it started sitting like very like properly, like where blockchain can go and how it can like see now you can solve the trust issues in real estate in Bangalore, for example, right? People resell the same property to two to three places. One guy comes over, tells you, sir, namde property, though, and then he tries to sell you. Probably there are a couple of cases on that property.
Right.
All of these are trust issues which can easily be solved by a blockchain, because the blockchain, it's like instead of a centralized place where all the documents and all the stuff cross-checking is done, it's all decentralized. Everybody under the network holds a bit of all the new information ever coming in, basically. That's how you put it, basically, right? I have a piece of like the latest up-to-date news. You have the latest, if you're part of the blockchain, somebody else. And if all of us correlate at the same time saying yes, it's a unanimous decision, only then a new block is created, right?
I see.
So that's how like probably it can solve real estate issues. There's so many that what happens is something has to break through, only then. We're at a very early stage, bro. We're at a very early stage, and it's like it's obviously you can't like make something happen if it's not ripe. The moment is not ripe. So blockchain is waiting for everything to get digitized.
Right.
Waiting for people to understand what is the digital sphere, and then like probably the next phase, right, to probably like singularity and stuff like that. This is like on the way, like a process, like a path where like everything gets like under, like you and I, like all of our book club members can have like, I can make like a non-fiction book club coin, and the best part is I can create it off of the Ethereum just by looking at a YouTube video. It's not really that tough. So all of us will get some coins under the club, and then like the value we add or like any stuff like that, you can create like a system, like you make a post, you make a podcast, and people vote for it and stuff like that. Voting system, I told you, right? There is a decentralized social media platform called Steemit, right? It's Medium, but all the authors basically get the money. Basically,
Oh, okay.
all the authors
Steam it.
get the complete money, right? They
If
don't
you
they
write a
don't just
blog
get.
post and based on how good
Yeah,
the blog post is, you
how good the
get
guy.
paid.
Let's say I come and I come and like your posts, right? You
Uh-huh.
get 10 votes, okay? Out of the 10 votes, right?
Okay.
One or two votes, right?
Uh-huh.
Holds a guy is very powerful in the blockchain. He holds a lot of leverage, so to speak,
Right.
right? So let's say at the end there's some sort of a calculation. Let's say you got $10 for that post,
Mm-hmm.
straight up, like but through the amount of clicks and
Right.
comments and the value we've added,
Right.
right? What happens? The $10 is now your 10 Steemit coins. You
Ah.
can go take that 10 Steemit coins to an exchange
Mm-hmm.
and sell it
Mm-hmm.
for bitcoins, and
Right.
from BTC you can convert it to your local currency. You
Right.
see how like it's like pulling down all the gatekeepers,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
it's decentralizing, and it's like pipelines are dissolving into becoming platforms,
Yeah.
right?
Right. Dude,
It's like a very
this
nascent.
really open up a lot of like writing, art, and all is not considered as a
Art,
real,
like it basically
yeah,
solves trust issues, bro. It what I
yeah,
realized, no, like I don't really understand everything the minute I read a book. It goes without saying too, like just because I read a book, it's not like immediately, yes, this is what it is, right?
hmm,
Again, circumambulatory stuff, like I've been like observing it over the years, and then suddenly one day, it just all starts like condensing. Like, what is blockchain actually trying to solve? It's solving trust issues, basically, right?
right,
You go, a smart contract is basically you go up to a vending machine, put a $2, and when
yeah,
you put $2, $200, the vending machine is a smart contract. It says unless you if then statement. If you put in $200, I'm going to give you this. That's a smart contract, right? You don't.
right,
There's no trust happening. You trust the You trust the vending machine to put $200, and you're going to get
yeah,
your money's worth, basically, right?
right,
So
right,
I can like set up smart contracts on Ethereum. Like probably you have to like you owe me some money. I'll be like, okay, until we have a maturity date, right? And I say so and so until then. If I put a if then clause and both of us has reached this one, it's a third party now. The computer is going to become like the arbitrage. Basically, it's
yeah,
going to
yeah,
like become like the who facilitates and validates the trade, basically, which
right,
was primarily done by the government, right?
right,
Financial systems, and
right,
the narrative is they take a lot of money for doing that stuff, for like keeping what do you call track and keeping like moving money around. There's something new called as DeFi also, decentralized finance. So
okay,
that's also very interesting. That's also a new. I was not aware of this, and suddenly it developed. As I told you, right?
hmm,
Till Bitcoin started making noise, it's $40,000 right now.
yeah,
It's probably hitting fifty
it blew
thousand
up.
dollars.
Like it's
Huh?
here, it really
Yeah,
blew up pretty high, isn't it?
it blew up.
Uh,
So right. So when this happened, only then when attention goes there, right? When
yeah,
something like this, something starts making too much noise. Until then, nobody gives a fuck what is
yeah,
happening, right?
yeah,
Even me, I moved on. Like again, as with the podcast, I speak whatever I'm interested in. I was a bit off the thing because I was not with the people who were involved in it too. A friend, he moved away and we stopped talking about it. But I
hmm,
kept track, but I didn't understand what is DeFi. So the decentralized finance, there's a whole new thing that's come on board. And
hmm,
when I did my research, I'm like, okay, actually it makes sense to just start a podcast. Because
right,
again, like let's say what happened, the narrative was basically there are a lot of these exchanges, right? Exchanges like
yeah,
Nifty. I'm sorry, is it Nifty, right? Like all the
yeah, yeah,
National Stock Exchange and all these guys are
yeah,
like the traditional forms of exchange for money and stocks. But obviously, for cryptocurrencies, we're going to have local exchanges for them, right?
right,
For local cryptocurrencies.
right,
If I want to condense it in that manner, right?
hmm,
What is going to happen when these local exchanges were there, when RBI started banning them? If you held bitcoins and if you held stuff like that,
yeah,
they started sending notices saying, "Boss, you can't hold this money,"
oh,
right? Because the RBI has warned us, to not people handling with cryptocurrency and stuff like that. So it became a thing. And then
right,
we got like a order from the Supreme Court or the High Court saying it
hmm,
quashed the thing saying that Because actually, it's okay to hold and deal with cryptocurrencies. Now, it was the latest. It happened in Jan or December
Yeah.
of this year. December or something. So it reversed basically the whole rule reversed, and it's okay to have cryptocurrencies in Bangalore, right? So it's in a volatile phase, right? The
Right.
plus the price is volatile.
Yeah. Yeah.
But as anything, right, people don't really dig. They're all like intelligent investor. If you read intelligent investor, most of them are speculators. They're not investors. A speculator is just who comes in, who looks at the booming real
Yeah.
estate
Make
price in
educated guess.
educated guess and Bombay and saying, okay, let me buy a flat. I have enough money. And like that, he's buying a flat because everybody else is buying a flat probably. So it builds up a bubble, right? But as with everything, this too probably they're like, okay, they're looking at it. They're putting in money because everybody else is putting in money. But
Yeah.
the underlying aspect of what it is, even it took me like years for me to obviously because I was not actively looking for that information. It was
And
just like
how
this.
did you go about this? If there is a person who intends to get into Bitcoin now or digital cryptocurrency, what are the books
Yeah.
that you have to read, or what would you have to do?
Uh, uh, See, as with learning anything, no, I
Yeah.
would always recommend go find some people, bro. That's like the
Right.
best way, right? Again, like since you're in a book club podcast, I'm going to refer books that again, like is which points you towards mastery. Robert Greene. Like I always like somewhere like my reasoning is from there. What he says is go become an apprentice to someone. Right, it's
Right.
not like a literal apprentice, but go become a part of a community, do apprenticeship, and like understand what are they thinking, what news sources are they looking from, how many years are there in the scene. Number one,
Right.
you can't find all of that. Number two, sources online. So now that comes to my point. Why I want to start the podcast again. Local Bangalore-based stuff and speaking about all of that is not available online. That's the whole reason I'm starting the podcast again, so that
Right.
I can get people and like it's fun, bro. I'm not like we're not really talking news and shit like that. I'm gonna talk about the new coins. I'm gonna like just gonna sit and gonna be online and just gonna like talk about all the new coins, my experience. I'm gonna get someone over and like probably his experience with the first experience of buying Bitcoin and like does his viewpoint of thinking what Bitcoin. We're at a very nascent stage. Again, to the point of like us being experts or not, it doesn't matter. I want to be a facilitator. I want to make it a platform for getting people over and asking their thought on what's their viewpoint on what is blockchains and cryptocurrency and stuff like that.
Right.
When that happens, someone else who comes over with the same questions, with the same kind of thing, okay, I actually had these same questions. Okay, this is what I think cryptocurrency is. This is what I
Yeah.
think it is. So it's sort of again like decentralizing education as such, right? By
Right.
just by listening to this, we're talking about new coins, we're talking about new stuff like that. Number two, that's number two. Number three is books. Just go keyword blockchain, bitcoins,
Right. Right.
like download. It doesn't matter. The first book you find it boring, throw it.
Right.
Nobody's going to hold
Which
you
is a book that
accountable
you
for it.
specifically like, though?
I'll put it up, bro. It's called something. I didn't put it up. I guess I did put it up. I did put it up. There's it's on the page. I think I was reading that book. So that's the thing. Now I'm at this stage where I'm hardly looking at the cover because I don't have time. I probably have 20 minutes. I'm sitting somewhere, like I'm browsing my phone. Instead of browsing the phone, I'm just like opening up a PDF and I'm just running through the book.
Right.
Right. I'm hardly looking at the cover right now because I was in this mindset of like probably I'd download 5 to 10 books and I just keep it on the phone. And then when I'm sitting by, I'm waiting for something to happen. Usually, right? You're waiting for a transport. You're on a walk. You're sitting somewhere. You're taking rest.
Yeah.
During that time, I just skim. You're like probably you're in a hospital. You're in like somewhere. You're somewhere like doing some kind of waiting kind of work. You're just sitting back.
Right. Like
Funnily,
how
that's
King reads almost all the time when he's waiting, when he's online to watch.
yeah, exactly, bro. It's a brilliant part. It's a hack to like, instead of mindlessly scrolling through social media, which all of us do. I'm not
Yeah.
saying that, but come on, like actually when you
New
sit
habit
down in that,
stuff, huh? Like
yeah, it's a new habit. Funnily, that's how I read. My first time I was read was New Rules for the New Economy, Kevin Kelly.
Right.
That was the first time I read that book. It was not even like, okay, I'm going to read this book and stuff like that. I was in a hospital. I was waiting for some of the tests to be done and stuff like that. And I read E-Myth, the E-Myth, Entrepreneur Myth.
yeah, dude,
I read that too. Like, right, classics, and these are golds. But I'm not saying like take a huge chunk out of your day, right? Given that you have it and you can do.
goals versus systems, isn't it?
Yeah. Just put in the hours whenever you can. It really doesn't have to be goals versus systems. Exactly, right? So that's funny. So again, bro, I don't really do it because there is some sort of monetization out of it. I obviously look at that aspect of it, but I can't play ball all the time if I'm looking at is there money at it or is
Yeah.
there some kind of I'm looking at what are the possibilities? What's the
Right,
future
right.
looking like? What's five
No
to ten
doubt.
years looking like?
It seems very interesting, how
Yeah,
broad
like do I find myself 15 years doing this book club podcast? Do I find myself 15 years doing like a blockchain podcast? Yes, obviously, because I'm interested. I want to learn more. I want to get people over, talk about it more, new book recommendations, like new stuff, evolving stuff in the field. And like it's sort of like decentralized journalism, at least, right? Our thoughts and we're talking about it and stuff like that, right?
Right, right.
And it's fun. Like I can't host other podcasts partly because like I don't do prepping and stuff like that, right?
Right.
Where,
Yeah.
right?
This is an
You told me
excellent way to
to
meet all the industry leaders, all the
industry
people in the
leaders
industry. Yeah.
exactly put them under one place and like again conversations. We have our main
It's like one of those, how in the movies you have this, spot, the watering hole of the.
yeah watering hole
Yeah, if you gotta go find Han Solo, you can, come to this place, or if you gotta go find this guy,
exactly
yeah.
exactly right. We can do it any Sunday, any part of the world over the years, given any day where both of us, if and then both of us are free. That's all. Right.
Who knows, man? You could like one day get like the really cool people like Jordan Peterson or something.
Yeah, bro, I'm definitely.
Possible,
I am totally up for it, and that's the whole reason why I do podcasting. Is for me, it's like personally very rewarding. Why it's almost like you're in talk. A book is basically an argument with a person, with an author, basically.
Yeah.
But the difference is you don't get to ask questions, talk back.
Right. Right.
That's the only difference. The author just keeps throwing information at your face, basically. Right? A podcast is, I'm looking at the same thing. Probably an episode with Jordan Peterson is the same book, but hey, I can ask questions. He can fucking answer back.
Yeah.
Right? It's as more intimate as it is. Like the same way I look at interviews too. It's an argument. It's more of like a conversation. It's not a book. It's a audio video format of a book probably, right?
Right.
So what else? What's new? So, Neurobics. That's a new thing that I picked up, bro. That's fun. I always had that in my radar. Neurobics. So I put up mental exercises. The recent stuff that I put up. The recent book.
Okay.
This yellow color book that I put up.
What's the name of the book?
So the whole thing is called Neurobics. Basically, brain exercises. I put up. It's a recent post.
Aerobics for neuro.
Aerobics for your brain. So it's how neuroscience, how you attack keeping a brain healthy through neuroscience. Basically, Jim Quick, right?
Okay.
Jim Quick, quick learning and quick KWIK, quick Jim Quick. He tells you how to keep your brain healthy and like it consumes a lot of energy of your entire body,
Right.
and the brain loves fat and stuff like that. He talks about like the performance and the nutrition of your brain.
Right.
But this is more about like you would ask probably older people to do it with Alzheimer's and stuff like that, because like neurobics is probably why do you work out? It's because like you so that you don't you keep you keep everything like running and rigid, right? But if you don't work this out too, right? If you don't like keep giving tasks to your head, it sort of weans away. It starts becoming numb and dumber, basically, right? That's why no new information enters, right? So again, compound effect, Darren Hardy. The more you learn, the more you are in a habit to learn more new things, right?
Right.
You keep yourself in. So neurobics again is coming to my point. Neurobics is again more of like exercises for your brain. Let's say you take the same path to work. Take a new different path. You brush your teeth with your right hand. Use your left hand. These are all small hacks as such, like that. Basically, all of us run scripts, basically, right? I don't remember the book that I can refer to. It was in a couple of books. Again, all of us run scripts, right? The minute we wake up, we're all micro scripting, basically walking to the coffee machine without, and we're sitting down, driving the car. All of that is embedded programming. There's a way to jolt it is by switching things up. That's a very interesting book. That's like a book you can probably gift people. You can keep it somewhere else and be like, like every now and then you can pick up. And it's a refreshing book. It's not like a Richard Dawkins endless tale into like, you have to keep like reading through it.
Right.
This is obviously very entertaining, but provided you know how to attack it. But these are like these fun books where you read it and you fucking feel so refreshed. You want to go try some of the techniques out. This is one kind of that book, and it's more
Interesting.
of like again and again I'm very interested in neuroscience. Given with all like the stuff that we've been reading and stuff like that, somewhere it adds up. Neuroscience, psychology, it's somewhere it's all interrelated, I feel. But neuroscience, again, as I told you, right, this is written by a neuroscientist or something like that, and he tells you how to keep your brain healthy basically. And all the tasks that we do, it's all like scripting. We're running scripts, so there is a way to switch things up. If you're taking always hot water baths, go cold water for a change.
Right.
Right? If you're not a guy who speaks to people, go out there and speak to people.
Okay.
If you're there like me, constantly speaking a lot, I don't know. I do both. I like don't talk endlessly in terms.
Yeah.
When I read and stuff like that, you can't like
listening and all that. Like you
Yeah,
making new pathways in the brain.
new pathways, exactly, right? So challenging yourself every now and then. Again, Joe Dispenza, right? Breaking the habit of being yourself and all these crazy books. I like his books. Joe Dispenza talks about
being supernatural. That's one.
being supernatural, beautiful book, right? He talks about by the time an adult is 35, he's already running programs which can't be uninstalled,
Okay.
and it's already embedded.
Right.
So you might as well install good programs. You might as well, right, install programs that are worthwhile, which form like the basis of like the things that you can do. And then it's like it's sort of like compounding effect, bro. That's Darren Hardy, the compounding effect book, right? The whole philosophy is true, and it's like one of the books that you got to read in your 20s, I feel like, because there's no use if you read it in your 60s, because like it's obviously you can make use of that power,
Yeah.
but if you read it in your 20s, by the sheer aspect of it sitting in your head, like the whole philosophy, I don't remember reading it. I remember listening to an audiobook and I immediately got what it was.
Right.
I immediately understood what the compound effect was.
Yeah.
But the most important thing was I was young enough to understand what it was. That's all I needed to know. That's why systems, not goals, right? That's why like me going at the gym or like working out and stuff like that, I knew it's a long game. It's not like short game. It's a long game. How do I look at 10, 15, 20 years from now? How do I like make sustainable habits? Again, us podcasting here for that matter, I wanted to be a sustainable habit, not like an enforcing stuff, right? Whenever you're free, whenever I'm free, whenever you're in the mood, whenever I'm in the mood, whenever you have read enough books, whenever I'm read enough books, right? Let it meet at that point so that the energy like moves. There is momentum versus
like actually,
yeah, go for it. Versus I rigidly say, no, bro, we're going to do this every Monday, we're going to do this every Tuesday. Then it becomes a chore. Then the minute it becomes a chore, then you're overthinking, you're trying to do stuff.
Yeah.
Don't worry, bro. That wouldn't work. Right. Plus, this will help a lot of people, again, whom I want to send book referrals to. You can probably send this video and be like, bro, we're going to talk about all these books. Watch this video. We can make clips out of these of these videos and like put it to people whom we want to refer, whom we want to like talk about different books too, right?
No doubt.
So what have you been reading?
Neuroscience, right? Like I'm sure you've heard of this book, Drawing on the Right Side of the Brain, and Betty Edwards.
I've only heard of it.
Yeah.
Betty Edwards. It's a classic, apparently.
Yeah, it's brilliant. So crazily enough, people back in the 80s, right? The CIA had this program called remote viewing, where they were using basically spies who were like psychic apparently, and those guys said the most of 80% of the exercises that they were using is from this book, the Betty Edwards. The new
Bro, I have to read that, and then Design of Everyday Things and Colors by Betty Edwards.
Betty Edwards. Yeah, it's brilliant. So I've been going through like my thing for this year is become a skilled artist. Like that's my system now. Like make art anytime I can do it. And,
exactly.
And that the atomic habit part comes in. I just like the goal is that I want to become an artist good enough to like make great art, like make comics and whatnot, like make my heroes. But at the same time, if that becomes a goal, then I'm always reminded of how I'm not good enough to like draw what I want to draw right now. Instead of a system, every day I know that hey, I'm gonna draw something. I don't care if it's gonna be a bird which is gonna look really wrong. Like I'm gonna do it and I'm gonna like submit it. And
exactly.
and now that I'm reading Betty Edwards, right, it feels very natural. For a long time, for me to read Betty Edwards was like, oh man, I gotta improve my drawing. It is just too much baggage. Now
Right,
when
right,
you
right.
got like, okay, I
It
gotta
throws light into what you aren't
yeah. So
yet.
yeah, some like we don't like identity bit. Like
Yeah, yeah.
you're already being somebody who's
On
maybe
the
I'm
way.
not skilled enough yet. We don't know.
Yes,
So
exactly.
you keep repeating the thing and
It all comes back to Gary Vaynerchuk when he says, "Just don't fucking judge yourself, bro." I mean,
yeah,
when a 50-year-old, 40-year-old dude is saying, "Don't judge yourself,"
right.
we're in our 20s. Like, what are we judging ourselves for, right? Like, we are more
Dude,
nearer to
I'm
being
telling you, man,
15
look
and
cool, bro. Hey, we don't want to look like an idiot in front of the social media crowd. That's it. That's all that.
yeah.
If you risk being a fool, right? Like I think
I'm
a lot of
I'm
things can happen.
totally I
Yeah,
am exactly. I live by the philosophies which says the fool is the precursor to the savior.
yeah,
Right.
exactly. That's
So
the Jordan
like I
Peterson is
have
the
it.
famous quote, man.
Yeah, I have it
Yeah,
etched here.
yeah,
So it gives you comfort in that fact that once you go, like he says, fuck up on purpose. Have you seen?
yeah,
There's a video of it says that.
yeah,
I
yeah,
didn't watch that video, but somewhere unknowingly I actually fucked up on purpose. It
uh-huh.
was like a huge, like a black ink on who I was, sort of, right? That became my strength. That became I used that as a, like a chip on my shoulder to do more crazier, weirder things. Because
Yeah,
again, like I've already disillusioned as to what people are like, what can they think anymore? I've already fucked it up, right?
right.
That became my superpower, that I can
Yeah,
go into things, I can venture into things where conservative people can't get into it. Why?
right.
Because I've already fucked it up, right?
Yeah.
What
No
else
going
can go
back
wrong?
now. You've already done like you're already
Yeah,
done a
there's
full
no going back,
circle.
right?
Yeah. It's like
And
hitting
I
rock
can it
bottom, and the only place to go
yeah,
is up.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I don't judge myself. I don't mind being a fool, so to speak, because I realize the fool is the precursor to the savior. You
Yeah.
gotta wait for the savior. You get to be a fool, and I feel like it's a part of your identity as being a youngster to actually, you know, embrace being foolish,
Yeah.
because it's a characteristic nature to be foolish. Obviously, right? Young monkeys and young, like, animals are foolish, like given the fact, but like you have to embrace that fact. But like again, society and people who are looking at you try to cover up the fact that you're not foolish, you're like this, you're that. They're
Yeah.
trying to basically, it's speculation, basically, again coming down to our talk, like
Yeah.
it's over speculating who you are, basically,
Right.
right? Trying to like bring things,
Meanings
blow
out
things
like
up, make
organize.
bubbles over your identity,
Yeah.
right? But if you stick to your core underlying fact that actually I'm nothing yet,
Mm-hmm.
I'm nobody yet, it doesn't matter.
Beginner's mind. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm always at the beginner's mindset. Again, since we're in a book club, I'm going to refer to books. Go read Mindset, right? The book
Yeah.
Mindset,
Carol Dweck.
Carol Dweck or something. That
Yeah.
again comes down to the same philosophy, which says you have to be in a beginner's mindset. You have to fail. You have to be like, bro, I don't know what the fuck is this. Help me out. Bro,
Yeah.
I don't like, you won't believe the places that I have gone, and I've straight up said, I don't know all this shit, but let me know whatever the fuck I need to know.
Yeah.
That breaks
He
down,
briefed me
breaks
on
the
all the
ice.
stuff that yeah.
That breaks the ice,
Yeah.
right?
Fresh
As to like,
stuff. Yeah.
wasabi, right? That breaks down all the ice as to what are the pretext and pretense of what others think I am, right? When I
Yeah.
go and saying, bro, I don't know all this, bro, teach me this shit. As I tell you, that's a beginner's mindset, that's a learner's mindset. And again, as you ask me, how do you get into cryptocurrency, bitcoins, and stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
Right? Go to the people who are involved in it and be like, bro, I don't know anything, but I'm ready to learn. I'll be asking questions and like let me know, right? That there is a bit of a shift that again, like, you're this, you're that, you're already bogged down into who you are
Mm-hmm.
at a very early stage. That sort of like, that does more harm for you versus doing any good.
True. How long are you gonna stay in that tower? Like might as well take that plunge.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because come on, the minute you hit 40 and 50, right, you obviously move from that place of being a beginner's mindset to naturally being like good at it, because you've like tempered yourself being like like a in the beginner's mindset. You move naturally to being, it'll be your autonomic activity to be an expert, I feel, after 40,
True.
after 45, right?
True.
That's how I look at it.
Yeah.
Mindset is a great book, bro. Mindset
So
changed
you're
everything
like
again.
like how Leonardo da Vinci, like, you know, when he was 20s, like he could not complete any of his paintings, was a total
Yeah,
loser,
exactly.
apparently.
Mastery.
And then when he hits 40, he's coming up with masterpieces, like, you know, on a daily
Yeah.
basis.
These are inflection points in his journey, basically, right?
Yeah.
These are compounding parts in his journey, right? Like the
Yeah.
game is yet to be played out. So be comfortable being a fool. Be comfortable so that the savior will come around, but like be very comfortable, because like people will tell you, and you obviously will have this imposter syndrome, self-reflection of I'm not this, I'm not that. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Like we're having long-winded talks about all of this, but I'm always like, since we're in a book club, all this philosophy is somewhere rooted in all the books that we've mentioned. So if anybody wants to like know more about it, you can ask us questions, but you can also read these books that where I've like somewhere accepted, like Robert Greene Mastery. You have to fucking read that book. Probably Mindset, right? And Compound Effect. All these are great books that somewhere similarly spin the same concept in different ways.
True.
Give me some book that you've read recently, and probably you can give us like a summary of what you think that book is. Something new, something. And
So I've been very obsessed with this new author that I've been following, right? For a long time, this technological singularity is something that I have been obsessed with in 2019. That's when I really venture into that. And I was not finding like any book that can follow up the technological singularity. Like, okay, what as an individual you can do in the face of technological singularity? So there's this
Amen.
philosopher, right? He's a contemporary philosopher.
Amen, bro, Sham.
Huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. Gotta be okay with looking like a fool if you want to learn new stuff. Absolutely, bro. Yeah.
All about that life.
All about that, full life.
Mindset.
Yeah.
All about that full life.
Yeah. Right. So, dude, this philosopher I'm talking about is Jason Reza Giorgiani. Okay, he's a Iranian American author. Incredible, dude. Like I've been like eating his content, like consuming his content like crazy. Like all the podcasts he does, and he has come up with these books. Okay, the recent book that I read about of his is called Prometheism, and later now that I'm reading is Prometheus and Atlas. So it's
I've heard of the
incredibly
second one.
fascinating because see, Ray Kurzweil and all these new entrepreneurs, tech people, they are seeing the technological singularity in a materialistic way, only like in a way that you see in the physical world. Whereas Jason Reza Giorgiani, right, he sees the technological singularity in the way people perceive it, like in the sense. Like how if Jordan Peterson keeps talking about the archetypes, like the Jungian archetypes, so it's like how the mind, the unconscious, the subconscious sees it, and
Yes.
He made a brilliant connection where alchemists, right, the medieval alchemists, the people who used to do science before science was a thing, the technological singularity is an aspect of the alchemist, because how you turn lead into gold, about transformation.
Exactly.
So technological singularity is the next phase. So why is Prometheus such a big deal? So just to like give you a premiere, okay, about who Prometheus is. Prometheus is a Greek mythological figure. Okay, he's a titan. Prometheus is the one who made human beings. He's the one who created human beings. He's the creator god in Greek. So do you get where this is going? Because when the Greek gods existed, Prometheus is the guy who made the human beings. So he basically made a new race of beings. So
Right.
this is why Frankenstein is like Mary Shelley's book Frankenstein is called the modern Prometheus, because in that Dr. Frankenstein creates a new race of human, or a new race of being. So post singularity, we're going to see the age of the post human being, as in like where you're going to have artificially intelligent, I don't know, like a new being is going to be born. And how
Hybrid.
yeah, and we don't know what it's going to look like, because the reason it's called a singularity point is because beyond a singularity, you don't know, you cannot predict.
You can't fathom stuff.
All bets are off when you go beyond singularity. So like this has been something. The idea, this goes back all the way to the ancient world with Zarathustra. Okay, the Zarathustra was a philosopher who was believed to be 8,000 years ago, and he's considered like the prototype futurist, a person who thinks about the future. Like before, like it is very hard for us modern, contemporary people to believe what the world was like in the ancient world, because back
Yes.
then you wake up, you find out that your 30-year-old relative has just died of smallpox or whatever, and this is your life now. Like life
Yeah.
sucks, and you can't
Yeah.
even think beyond that. But
Yes.
Zarathustra, back in that ancient world, like is able to see that we can create a paradise on earth. Like that is what basically the promise of technological singularity is. And some ways I'm trying to get into the philosophy aspect of it, the classical philosophy, reading Heidegger. Martin Heidegger is a German philosopher. Hegel,
Okay.
like
Hegel.
Friedrich Nietzsche, all the people like Jordan
Nietzsche.
Peterson is like crazy about. Yeah, so trying to like break into that. Like obviously I feel like an idiot like trying to understand all these tough philosophical words.
It helps now. Probably
Yeah,
later it starts
yeah.
condensing through.
No doubt, no doubt. And I'll this is very exciting as an artist. I'm me trying to get into making good art. Like Prometheus is the specter, or like the represents rebellious art. Like Prometheus is the constant rebel. He was a part of the Titanic, the Titanic pantheon. Like he was a member of the Titans. He rebelled against the Titans, became helped the Greek gods who came next after the Titans. Then he rebels against the Greek gods and becomes member of the human. He's a humanitarian basically. So when you're an artist and you gotta make art, right? Like it feels like there's a Promethean aspect of it. Like so this may go a bit beyond our non-fiction route, but whatever I'm talking about, in the sense that about Prometheusism and Prometheus and Atlas, it has like vast connections. So like the next book that I'm reading about his Prometheus and Atlas, it's basically about how Prometheus uh, and the idea of Atlas, the Atlas shrugged from Ayn Rand. So
Yeah.
basically, Atlas is something that holds the world together, like the stability of our times. So you really get a way to understand how the world is going to work, or how the world is going to move in the next 30 years. And see all these technologies that are coming, the green technologies, genetics, robotics, information, and robotics, like not robotics, like nanotechnology in the end. So like Prometheism is basically that new sense of philosophy, or the new paradigm. Paradigm in the sense, what are the new values that you're gonna use in the coming age. And like I highly recommend you check out like Jason Reza Georgiani's podcasts and lectures.
Send me
It's
some links,
absolutely
bro.
brilliant. Yeah, and this is some a book. These books I've been really excited about.
Send me some links, bro. Okay.
Yeah, done, dude. I'm gonna like send you like a lot of links. Yeah, like coming up. So
And we'll put it up on the page also so that people can
yeah,
see.
true.
Any non-philosophy, any other
Well,
field?
I'm reading Atomic Habits again, to bring that,
Yeah.
atomic. You know what?
Give
Let me
us
just,
your overview.
like, I recently, like, went on a binge to get more new awesome books, and how much of a, like, what do you think about psychics?
I'm neutral right now.
Yeah,
I'm neutral. Like there's no evidence,
right.
and
Yeah,
I'm neutral, bro. I wouldn't say anything against or on, because like I'm pretty neutral. I don't understand psychics,
right.
but as far as where I can like understand is more of empathy and
Yeah,
mirror neurons and stuff like that. That's where psychics can like feel stuff. But that's as far as I can. I think I can, if I can have to argue for psychics, but I
right.
have don't have a standing observation. But why do you ask?
Yeah,
Yo, grow
because
that dank.
huh?
Thanks for this, bro. Grow that dank says thanks for this. You're welcome, yo.
Yeah, anytime, grow that dank. So why I asked about psychics is, like, allow me to, you can make fun of me later, but
Yeah.
I've been like getting into this the spectral revolution. Okay, so see we are coming see the contemporary view of physics or natural law or whatever you see, right? It is a view of a materialist, okay, or you could say reductionist. So what does that mean is that you do not see what is beyond reality. Like you see reality as what it is. You don't see anything beyond it. All the spirits and stuff, all the crazy
Yes.
gods and spirituality and all that stuff, it was believed by our ancestors, but we don't do that anymore. So my journey with all of this spiritual stuff started with Sam Harris. Okay, Sam Harris is like an
Yes.
atheist, and he gives like clear arguments about believing in God and believing in religion, mythology, and all this stuff. However, there is a footnote with Sam Harris. He is somebody who believes that there is enough evidence with the psychic phenomena such as telekinesis. Telekinesis is basically you can move things with your mind. Telepathy, communicating with with your mind.
Exactly.
Clairvoyance, which is like able to predict the future. So I suppose you can predict stocks and lottery
Yes.
numbers or whatever. He believes that there is enough evidence for this, and he points out to the research by this guy called Dean Radin. He wrote a couple of books called the Conscious Minds, and
Right.
another book he has written. He has several books, and all of them are like rooted with evidence. This guy took the scientific method and he actually applied it to all the psychics, and there is reason to believe that this phenomenon of having psychics or clairvoyance is legitimate. However, like even though you have doubts, and it's totally understandable, I highly recommend that you check out this guy called Lynn Buchanan. Okay, so
Okay.
Lynn Buchanan, he wrote this one book called The Seventh Sense. All right. Okay, it sounds like a very cliche kind of thing. Like, of course, like after the sixth sense, you gotta cover the seventh sense sort of thing. But he has that credibility because back in the 80s, 90s, the CIA were heavily into this thing called remote viewing. Basically, they're psychic spies. So you give these psychic spies a target, and they will be able to give you information that is most of the time correct. And how correct, in fact, is that they were able to get accuracy up to 60 to 60%. Like even if you consider the random things about in
The
statistics,
variance.
even if you account for the randomness, that is like unprecedented. Like that will it's it gives you evidence
Unheard.
that there is this phenomena that exists. And get this,
I have lost you.
yeah,
Yeah,
sorry
you're
about
back.
that.
Go
And
ahead.
get this, the CIA recently, like a 10 like the past 10 years, they declassified a couple of documents about about their activities in the 80s. Turns out the remote viewing program that the CIA used, it actually worked. Like they admitted it, and I'm like, it's not, you won't hear this everywhere else. Like it's uh, and you see, so I'm also like a guy who came from the skeptical side. I'm like, okay, why is like, okay, I like, though it sounds really cool to have Jedi
Yeah.
powers like
Just
telekinesis and
rational.
all that stuff. However, I've heard some interviews with Lynn Buchanan, and coincidentally, he also said that to train the people who are going to be these psychic spies, you need like he used to do the exercises that were there from drawing from the right side of your brain, which is incredible. Like it was
Holy
like
fuck.
morphic
I'll start that
resonance
book,
for me.
bro.
Yeah,
I'll start that book.
and turns out drawing from the right side of your brain is like there are exercises to like improve your intuition, basically. Intuition in sense, we always have that thing, right, about that creative spark kind of thing. Like where do all those good ideas come from? Where do you get that original idea for you to make art from? And one last mention about the crazy psychic phenomena stuff. The guy who wrote the story for Blade Runner, Philip K. Dick, he wrote
Okay.
the story for the Man in the High Castle. It's a really good show. Like he is the guy who used to believe in all this stuff, and if you look at his stories, they come across as highly very original, and people used to think he was somebody who's like he's gone neurotic. So yeah, I highly like Seventh Sense by Lynn Buchanan. You should check it out.
Okay.
Right.
Send us all the links of
And
whatever you mentioned.
right, right.
That's interesting, bro.
Yeah.
Um, what about like with the influx of all the EVs and electronic? I want to like switch topics.
Right, sure.
You want to
Did
like
you get a
you
point?
have any?
Tesla became, I mean, Elon Musk, man, richest man in the world
Yeah,
now. Why
richest
not?
man. Yeah,
Yeah,
but he's looking at like technology, like right. They say that's what they say, right? Tesla is not into making cars; they're into technology,
yeah,
right? Right.
yeah.
You are in the tech of things, basically. But now, to my question is to how India we have a lot of EV like infiltrating like the entire
We are
scene.
getting a new, we are getting the basic Tesla model for a pretty hefty
Yeah.
price, isn't it?
Yeah.
Uh,
So, but I was thinking somewhere, I feel like electricity is again is a renaissance period for electricity. I
yeah,
feel like it's reinventing itself. It did its first wave of what it's supposed to do, create the transistor and create the internet and stuff like that.
right,
But it's sort of reinventing again because it didn't like sort of like, move through completely, did what it's supposed to do in the first wave. I
right.
sort of feel, like because again we have government, we have lobbies, we have stuff like that, which won't like gatekeepers, which won't like completely, make use of like solar power and like EVs and shit like that, right? But now the market is coming around into like,
1 second, podcast.
yeah,
Right. Sorry
yeah,
about
bro,
this. Yeah,
no problem,
yeah.
right? I know. I was just thinking like what are your thoughts? Like, it's very interesting as to like. Electric vehicles, it's not like a big thing to actually like, but like suddenly, you feel the force of like Porsche is releasing electric vehicles and
Yeah,
like all the
dude, that car
crazy,
looks amazing, right? I love
right?
it.
Right. So like it's reinventing itself, sort of. Electricity is the price of batteries, the price of copper, the price of silicon, the
Lithium,
price of all that
yeah.
lithium ion batteries, all
And
that shit is
how
going to go
efficient
through.
your power generation is gonna be. I heard that they have found a more efficient way to collect wind power from wind energy. Apparently, it
Wind
only
to.
takes 2 rotations to like power your house for a day or something like that. It's
So
crazy.
you really think? So
Yeah,
you really think there are so many paradigms gaps in the market that you can actually like? That's the thing. Like if I have you convinced that like there are no ways out, right?
right,
Man can believe anything.
right.
If I have you convinced you can't see the color red, probably you will never. Even if you see the color red, you
Yeah,
will consciously ignore red. So
right,
that
right.
comes to the point like there are so many possibilities and there are places that like, because why I say this is because like again EV vehicles are not like a crazy thing. It is, we always had that concept.
Right.
You can't make like you, it's not a crazy thing, but the thing is we owned like a EV vehicle. It was like a small electric vehicle and I was using it and I couldn't believe like what a crazy vehicle this is. This doesn't make any noise, right?
Uh-huh.
You can zip through anything and a
Are you talking
charge you
about
can go
Ether?
around. No, this was older. This is something called an Eon, bro. This was an old vehicle.
Right, right,
I had it for like 3-4 years or something before
right,
it became a thing,
right,
right? And it was sort of why. That's why I always feel you have to be proactive into the most latest thing. Why? Because like you have to be an adapter, right? The early adapters, basically in the curve of early
right.
adapters and the people who come in the
So what
wave.
is your question, by the way, about EV? Like, are what the Indian market should do,
Yeah.
or
No, what do you think? What is happening right now? Like how? Like it's not like we've already had. Uh, Electronics was there. Electronic vehicles were present before. Like why is it suddenly surging
because the
this
status,
year?
bro? I'm telling you, it's because see, what Naval Ravikant was saying, right? That you can always the status is like zero sum games, but wealth is not. So like even though if you have the money, even if it makes logical sense for you to like buy an electric vehicle, only because of the status point of view, you're gonna like start actually taking that action. And what's happening with the EV scene right now is that Apple and Hyundai, the South Korean conglomerate, they're gonna come together and they're gonna like build an electric car, and it's not gonna be something that they're gonna like sell it at the same price as a Tesla. Like it's gonna be something which is like, gonna be a supercar, like a Lamborghini or a Ferrari or something. It's gonna be a
Okay.
total status symbol because come on, like any,
Mm-hmm.
the iPhone, right? iPhone is a status symbol. Like people have, there is enough research there is even research that says that people who see carrying iPhones are like considered attractive, like
More
the
attractive,
sense,
yeah.
which is so obviously like people when they hear that shit and they hear, oh, Apple car, of course it needs to be expensive, otherwise what's the whole scene,
This guy Cred, the founder. That guy is also very interesting, bro.
Who?
Kunal, the Cred founder, Cred.
Okay, cred. Okay, yeah, the Indian credit thing, right?
Yeah, the guy behind it is named Kunal B or something like that.
Okay.
He's you check out his stuff, bro. He's almost like the Indian Naval. I feel like it's
Indian
very
who?
interesting. Naval
Naval.
Ravikant. I feel. I mean, given that Naval is Indian, but yes,
But
given
closer to home, like geography.
But yeah, the way again in another podcast he was talking about like status versus the zero sum game and all that, and he gave it in an Indian context which mattered more, as to be like everybody in India is just going for government jobs and stuff like that because it's all status driven. Whereas if you
Yeah.
just like look for, he gives it even a better context because he understands the Indian. He being an older guy, he understands that stuff. But I feel he had these parts of Naval in him, like the way he was, putting things forth, and the way all the posts that he do also, it's all very interesting. You check him out,
Yeah,
right?
it's like,
So
he's like the smart uncle in the family, sounds like, huh? Like you
yeah,
all
very
share that.
interesting,
Yeah.
stuff. And again, if you're into tech, if you're into if you're into modern company, you're pretty much into tech, right? But given what is tech, tech is like it's just like what's in fashion. I feel like if you were years ago, tech is oil, right? I'm into technology, bro, means you are probably in the oil industry, right? I'm into tech, right? So tech is what's new, what's upcoming right now. What's new in tech is like again programming, coding, computing,
Right.
the silicon stuff.
Right.
Okay, all of that aside, again, electronic vehicles. It's very interesting. Like there's so many ways of mobility that we haven't thought about. And since we're Bangalore Nonfiction Book Club, we can talk about the Bangalore. These guys, the Yulu guys, they're killing it. It's like $10 an hour or something. You can literally go anywhere around the city.
Right. Is that
Right?
one of the rental?
Yeah, the blue color ones.
Yeah, dude.
The blue
You see
color
it
small
everywhere in
ones.
the metro, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. So it's so like eye-opening. Whereas it's so eye-opening. Whereas how I'm looking at it, right? Bounce guys have also gone electric.
Right. Yeah.
Do you see? Did you? Yeah, and what happens is, if you're like, let's say I'm like, I don't have a job, I want to do not Oyo, Dunzo. I want to become a Dunzo guy. I do not have to own a vehicle anymore.
Oh, okay.
Do you see that? Like the arbitrage, right? Like what I can do is I can use a makeshift bounce vehicle, Yulu vehicle, get my work done for a day. Next 15 days I don't have work, I go back to my hometown, like I leave, like it's all like modular systems. Right. So that comes to my point to the book, Kevin Kelly's book, boom, Inevitable. Like you read that book, it all makes fucking sense.
Makes sense.
Like again, ownership is getting like again decentralized. You really don't have to like own stuff. I don't understand like owning more resources doesn't actually. It's again pipeline versus platforms right now. It's hoarding right now, right? So you have to see through it. So that's why I almost feel like owning a vehicle is useless. Why? Because first thing is like mobility is not an issue right now with Yulu, public transport, Oyo and stuff like that, right? I'm very much free to do whatever I want. I can get into search for one of those Yulus and Oyo, Olas and stuff like that, get into that, use the electric vehicle and like live. And personal mobility, probably you never know, hybrid
it makes
hybrid rollerblades.
sense that you don't need a vehicle right now, right? In an urban environment. Like it totally makes logical sense. You can like get by. However, you're like the status, dude. Like
status versus
the irrational, side of you, like to impress, basically the.
Wait! I want to put it books. Okay. Predictably Irrational. Scott Adams' book, Bigly, and probably how to win everything in life. How to win. How to lose. How to. What was that? How to
No, how to fail
Fail
in everything and still win big.
and
Yeah.
still win big. All these books talk about that, right?
True.
Irrational stuff. Again,
True.
so status versus, as I told you, I'm coming back to that point, right? If you fuck up on purpose, you have a
Yeah.
superpower to like, you have so much wiggle room. You don't
And
have,
speaking of, this all ties up to this another book which which I've been recommending to a lot of people. I think this is the ultimate birthday present you can give to anybody. This book changed my life. It's called The Courage to be Disliked. So, so if you
oh,
have the courage to be disliked by people, then
yeah.
that's
Oh my
basically a
God.
superpower, man.
I
If
should probably read that, but I almost innately know that philosophy right now. If I
yeah,
read, I'm like, yeah, I understand this book. I didn't even have to read this book, yes, but
yeah,
I know what's happening.
I suppose so. Yeah, yeah, but
In my case,
like
in only in my
yeah.
case.
That's what I thought about the compound effect as well, because I know the compound effect, but I know that I have a feeling that if I read the book more, I've not read it yet.
Yeah,
I'm gonna
yeah,
get that
yeah.
mindset, or
You're gonna get the mindset,
yeah,
small bells and whistles of the philosophy that you don't understand. Probably,
yeah,
like it makes it much more better. But yeah, so that's what you get more wiggle room to do stuff.
true, true,
Status versus this one. Let me get back to like the concept of books where it ties everything up. Like everything
right,
that we ever read ties everything up, right? We are still young. Like it's not like I have come up with this philosophy over 75 years of existence, right?
right,
We are trying to bring up concepts from different books that you have to go judge for yourself by reading those books. Don't
right,
listen to us. Don't like think of us. Just go. We are just facilitating. We are showing you what's not. It's up to you to think about that. Again, every personal finance books, Dave Ramsey and
mm.
everybody, all of them say, don't stretch. Don't stretch. If you're getting
Yeah,
a
I know, right?
salary,
Yeah,
if you're getting a salary of let's say $100,000,
yeah,
don't go spend all the $100,000.
yeah,
Right, right. That's just saying, like, don't have wiggle room
yeah,
because you're opting for the status symbol,
right.
right? Like you don't
The
have a
millionaire
slack
next door
space.
thing, isn't it?
Millionaire next door, millionaire next door, millionaire next door,
Yeah.
right?
All those rich
Again,
guys, just staying simple, not buying their
just saying simple, don't
stuff,
stretch.
and
That is the true superpower, and that is the
yeah,
true philosophy, basically. In order to do all of that, right, you have to be simple. You have to you don't overstretch. By not overstretching, you have more wiggle room to be more risky. When you are more risky, again, we're talking about another book, Nicholas Nassim Taleb. Right, you can take
yeah,
more risks. Right, more risks mean some kind of offset rewards.
yeah.
Right? Do you see
And
that? Do
Nicholas,
you?
Nassim Nicholas Taleb, right? He's very fascinating in so far as that he has really adopted that philosophy from the Stoic, from the Greeks. Like he talks
Stoics,
about a lot about those guys. Like, see, even if the things are going, there is in his book Fooled by Randomness, right? There is this
randomness.
point he talks about these two people who are both stock traders or whatever it is,
Yes.
and this one guy who spends this money and everything, buys helicopters and all that stuff, and this other guy who lives very frugally. Like he knows.
Yeah.
I mean, he is living a more. I'm not gonna say like a boring life. I'm gonna say a more examined life. He's more
Yeah.
not into the status
Observant.
symbol. Yeah, but in the end of that story, like spoiler alert, like it's a short story in the middle of the book. But whatever, in the end of the story, that guy like lives a very simple life, and then he dies. In just like everybody else. So he says like there is no escape. Like this is what life is all about. Like
Yeah, yeah.
the fate is this. But like, is this like I'm telling you? Like, look, the way to live this life might bring you more satisfaction, or something like that.
So, bro, do you know about Graham Stephen? He
No, no.
personalized basically. Graham Stephen is like a YouTuber who personalized personal finance basically. He
Uh,
just said like, don't buy fucking $5-10 coffees and just like he's into real estate. He basically worked. His agent. He was an agent basically. He worked with a lot of rich people and understood their habits and saw what they were doing. And then,
oh,
right,
right, right.
he saw what they were doing and he just implemented that life. As a youngster, he became a millionaire basically just
Wow,
by using those habits. And these are all ingrained habits, bro.
right.
The flaw that I see is, right, again, you're going out, you're stretching yourself far too thin by
Yeah,
going for that status and trying to get that nicer car, the nicer stuff. By that, you're selling yourself short because now you're under some kind of, like, you have to pay it back in 3 months. You have to pay back
Right.
in 3 years. You have to pay it back in 3.5 years. What is going to happen? You're going to get less risky. And
Right.
once that you're going to get less risky, you're going to run your old scripts. And
Right.
when
Right.
you run old scripts, you don't grow, right?
Right. True.
Back to
True.
neurobics and stuff like that, right? You don't have
But
wiggle room to be more risky.
there is a like a possibility that as you grow older, there was this thing where see there are 5 traits in a person's personality, right? The ocean traits. You have heard of this? Openness to experience,
Yep,
conscientiousness,
yep.
extroversion. So it is written like
Conscientiousness
yeah, there is research that as you grow older, your conscientiousness increases. You
increases.
stop taking risks and you become, and the open to yeah.
That's bro. There is another book I want to just add in quickly. It's written by a psychologist. Basically, she observes all the kids who are doing dumb stuff. Basically, who picking up like,
Marshmallow test?
huh?
The marshmallow test, that's the book.
No, it's not. I understand. I know the marshmallow test. It's based on that concept where a brain is fully formed by 25, right?
Right.
The kid, they go on picking all these jobs, flipping burgers and stuff like that, saying, I want to live life. They haven't like completely turned around, but they haven't like completely, since the brain is not completely formed. I'll put up a link for that. It's a very interesting book. It's the viewpoint of a psychologist who sat down, who observed a lot of these kids under 25, under 30, and trying to see again. That's because your brain is not completely formed, basically, right?
Right,
Go
right,
ahead.
right. Yeah, so I'm just saying, like, there's a possibility that the older you grow, the more conscientious you become, and the less risk you take. Because people who rank higher in conscientiousness, they don't take but they are very diligent with all the other stuff. They're high in
Yes,
orderliness and all that. But the
high in
openness to
orderly.
experience is like reduces. Like
It's a proportional, I guess, right?
yeah. So
Inversely proportional.
yeah, but then that again, you what about the artists who keep growing older, right? Like what about them? How are they able to keep their openness to experience? I don't think it's like something like a fatalistic theory. I think it's just like
It is,
statistics.
it is if you someone who understands human psychology.
Right,
Number two, neuroscience. Why I say this is you have to hack it.
right,
Why do I say this is it's all exercises, it's all philosophy. By saying that, by understanding that, what, I'm running a lot of scripts, what,
right,
I'm finding myself less in openness, high in conscientiousness and stuff like that. It's cool. But every now and then you have to like flip the switch, right?
right,
Shock yourself by
right.
doing something out of the ordinary, as I told you, right?
Yeah,
Again, it ties up to this whole concept. There was a nice Quora question somebody asked: how do I exercise my free will?
oh,
Right?
okay.
If I'm buying Coke every day, just go buy Pepsi.
Ah,
If I'm walking this path to home, just take
right,
the other path home. Now
right,
you are exercising free will by not being, regular to doing what you're always doing.
right.
Right? That opens up new places, and new places is new information. New
I see.
information
Yeah.
is new
That's where the
new places.
neuroaerobics comes in here.
That's
Right,
where understanding neuroscience, that's where understanding human psychology comes into play. That's
right,
why you have to have a fair understanding, not like an expert view of it, but what's the philosophy of psychology? What's the philosophy of neuroscience? Like, what are they trying to tell us, these experts, of us laymen trying to read all these books? They're telling us, again, this is how it works. The neurons that fire together wire together. Like,
yeah,
use all this stuff. Right? The more you see, the more conservative you're becoming.
mhm,
Observe it. That's
right,
again comes back to my point of keeping life logs, keeping like a diary of like, what are you thinking, how
journal,
much do you weigh, what do you eat, what are your thoughts, what are
yeah,
you thinking, what's your plans. Now what you're going to have a collection of 10 years of data. Through
mhm,
that you can make decisions by making
right,
a meta decision. It's not a decision, it's a meta decision. It's backed by a lot of data, which
right,
is very unique to yourself.
right,
Right? It's an interplay between understanding psychology, it's an interplay between neuroscience, and again journaling. It goes a long way, because you are the best judge of the
right,
decisions that you can make, and you can only make that with a bit of data and like a feeling, right?
right,
Let's say I'll give you a practical example. I'll bring it down to like something relatable, so that it makes sense more now. What do I mean by these meta decisions? Right?
my meta decision to work out, let's say, like let's put it in like more quantifiable way. I
Right.
quantify every day, what do I work out? If I work out, what do I work out? What did I work out on? What was my mindset behind like working out at the gym? I have almost meticulous amount of data from in the last 7 years or 4 years, let's say 4 years of 365 days of what I ate,
Right.
roundabout, not really to the point. I'm not like so neurotic. I don't have like so much. I'm not so diligent, but I have that habit. Again, you don't have to be diligent. You need to have the habit basically, right? I have this habit of like logging everything. What did I eat? What was the count of how did I feel and all this stuff. So
What gets measured
now,
gets
yes,
Yeah.
it gets managed, right? So now I have a season coming up. What do I mean by a season? My entire year, this year, what am I going to work out and what is going to happen? It's a combination of me looking back at all the pictures and all the things that I weighed. What did I do?
Right.
Now I'm going back to that data, but when I look at all the pictures and stuff, I start firing off different parts of my I go back into the time and place back in 2016. I worked this, I worked out like this. I used more of this kind of method. I did this. Now it's like a sort of innate feeling that actually I know what to do. It's a meta decision, not just based off of I know what to do, bro. Let's play ball. It's not like that now. That you can come to only that point unless you gather critical mass of data, right?
True,
so that
true.
so again, to your point is to saying, if you want to be more of that artist, bring down, quantify everything, measure everything. You don't have to
Right.
be anal about it, but the more you measure, the
Yeah.
more data you have to make meta decisions. And you know for a point that decision will stick because it's a meta decision, because
Yeah.
it's made out of years and years of personal quantifying and logging of the stuff that you feel, you think. So when you make that decision, it's almost not a logical decision, it's a hybrid decision between logic and what you feel off of all the data you've collected.
True.
Like I've made some breakthroughs, bro. Like after keeping 4 or 5 years of like
Yeah.
personal stuff, I've made some breakthroughs where, like really, my intuition was a part of me was telling, just do this. That was just like the impulsive part. Okay.
Yeah.
But the metadata was telling me another story in itself.
Right. Right.
I'm
right.
like, fuck. Like I catch you there. I caught you there. Right. The data plus the thing was the impulse was telling me do the normal shit, but the meta that like the logging that I was doing was telling me another story, another narrative. Right. Since I have variances, let's say again, I'll give you another example of protein, on protein, high fat, low fat. I do all this stuff when we're into fitness. Right. Off coffee, on coffee. Only
Right.
carbs in the morning, less carbs in the morning. Like all this variance. How do you make sense of all of it?
Right.
If you keep a track of all of this and then look back in the mirror, look back in the whole spectrum of all the decisions and how you felt, you have a metadata. Now I know what to do, because the impulsive says, bro, just fuck that shit, eat more of these, eat more. No. I've done all of this. I have logged all of this.
Yeah.
What am I seeing through the horizon of all the decisions I've made?
Yeah.
Right. That's more fun.
See, this is the whole point of being a very introspective, living the examined life, basically. That's the whole, basis of, keeping that journal. And
Amen, bro.
for those, who want to like start, getting started on a journal, I highly recommend this book called The Bullet Journal Method.
The Bullet
or
Journal,
you can
yeah.
watch the 5-minute video on YouTube, which is brilliant. I really love it's very simple. It was made by a designer called Ryder Carroll. And, you can apply this, immediately. And, you can just start it, 2021.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, again, to tie things up again, when I tell you, right, when I do all these podcasts, I am literally doing 6 to 7 different various podcasts, right?
Yeah.
I'm in a way journaling myself again. In 15 years down the line, all this that I've ever coming out of my mouth, an older version of myself is gonna listen to this.
Yeah.
I can look in the camera and see, be like, boss, you're fucking probably 25, 40, 20, 35, 45, 55. This is what I'm feeling. This is why I am literally speaking to an older version of myself.
Yeah.
Through time.
And the whole point of writing a journal, like
That's the whole point of the.
Yeah.
Again, that's the whole point of doing this podcast, doing podcasts too. Now, we are not under a script, right? We are like sort of like riffing and talking about the different things. Now you have metadata about your reading skills, about your habits. 10 years down the line, you look at all these podcasts and be like, okay, bro, I was telling all these things to Sakshat. I was telling all of this. This is what I thought. Wow, I have more data on to make good decisions and judgment. That's the whole reason I ask people to come on podcasts and speak their
Yeah.
mind out and stuff like that. Because again, you're continuously documenting yourself, you're
Yeah,
ironing your
the
thoughts
slice
out,
of
what you want to
life
say.
back in that day, in
Yeah,
2000,
yeah, exactly.
like if you had a podcast, like, hey, what was your life was going back then? Because
Yeah,
like that person
how
is a total stranger now, the guy who was,
exactly,
yeah. So
exactly. And you're documenting yourself too, right?
true, true.
And is far more fun that way, and it's far more like rewarding that way too, like reflecting like that, reflecting and talking. It's more, you can make great decisions. I feel like that's the only way. You're the only person who can never make that decision, but you can't solely make it out of it, make decisions out of that only through your impulse. It goes a long way, but it goes only until a certain way. After that, you got to have your data basically of all your logging. That's where I say reach critical mass, look back, look at all the data, make
Yeah,
great decisions. Right
right.
now, you have decisions. You don't need a friend to come nudge you and say, "Hey, bro," like he. It's good when he says that, but you do all of that stuff, log it, and then look back. You got and
It's
like it's
basically like putting the experimental method on yourself. Hey, like why did
yeah,
that work? That's how you keep daily logs of your experiments in life, and you
yeah.
make a hypothesis and
So
conclude it.
exactly, now what happens is I can become more conscientious, I can become more diligent, I can become more anal. Why?
Whichever you,
Because I've played out all the variants.
yeah,
Right. That comes down to the point of me being very risky, very foolhardy, very young
right,
and foolish. Because I didn't give two fucks. Like I was, as I told you, like I fucked up on purpose. Like I've done all the mistakes that I want to possibly. I've become the fool in itself. Right.
right,
Right. I'm waiting for the savior to come through. That is more of me sitting back and like observing. Now I have like a game plan to becoming conscientious and
right,
saying, no, I'm not that kid that I used to be roaming around very impulsively, basically making decisions. I
right.
respect it. I respect it because I wouldn't be here without him making all those foolhardy,
Yeah,
like all those decisions. You have to like give integrity to the foolishness there.
yeah.
Right.
So every decision you make, it directly influences posterity, right? Posterity in the sense your future self. So
Yeah.
that
You
that
feel,
comes back to that thing. The child is the father of the man. That Bible quote. That you're
uh,
basically the progenitor of your next self. The
right.
in time.
Definitely, bro.
Yeah.
That's great. What's the time?
So yeah, it's 9:20. So I guess we can wrap it up for this one, and
It was a long,
let's
winding one.
yeah, let's meet for the next one, dude. Like,
Yeah, bro.
a
Definitely.
pleasure as always.
Make some notes for what you want to speak, probably if you want, or you
Uh,
can keep it mentally, or something
right,
that you
right.
want to share in the podcast next time to
True.
just keep like a, so that
Yeah.
it's more, yeah,
I'm
you can
gonna
like,
start like I'm gonna send you all the Jason Reza Giorgiani videos. You just gotta.
yeah.
I'm gonna like pick the ones that I think you're gonna enjoy a lot.
Definitely, bro.
Great. All
Cool,
right.
guys. For those of you guys who are listening, this is the Bangalore Nonfiction Podcast, the Book Club Podcast. I hope you guys had fun. And as usual, signing off. See you.
Signing off. See ya. Good night.
Good night, bro. Good night.